The Buffalo Bills get themselves on the board with a trade, and they go out and acquire wide receiver DJ Moore and a fifth-round pick from the Chicago Bears for a second-round pick in this year's draft. Moore, who is turning 29 this offseason, had just 50 catches for under 700 yards this season, but the year prior had 98 catches and just shy of 1,000 yards. We'll get more on this trade. Stay tuned. Sal Kapacio will join the show at 5. Now to the Sabres, who are dealing with a trade deadline. They do not have the same amount of luck, as the reported deal for Blues defenseman Colton Parayko is off, as Parayko has decided to not waive his no-trade clause. The Sabres, though, do still have 24 hours until the trade deadline tomorrow at 3. Tonight, though, they are at the Penguins. Puck drop is at 7, pregame at 6, and tonight is an ESPN game on television. So if you do want to hear Dan Dunleavy and Rob Ray, it's going to be right here on WGR. And the Sabres, they go into tonight rolling with a 4-game win streak, and all signs are pointing to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen getting the start in net. We do, though, have some trades in the league to report for today. The Maple Leafs sending forward Nick Waugh to Colorado for a conditional 27th first-round pick and a conditional 5th-round pick in 2026. And then Vegas, they get forward Nick Dowd from Washington for goalie Jesper Vikman, a 2nd in 29 and a 3rd in 2027. And there are 7 other games tonight and some of the notable matchups to keep an eye on. Also at 7, the Rangers are hosting Toronto, while the Panthers, they are in Columbus versus the Blue Jackets. At 8, Tampa is at Winnipeg, and then at 9:30 to wrap up the evening, the Kings, they host the New York Islanders. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Buffalo needs players who can make huge plays in huge moments. That's DJ Moore.
Williams looking downfield, launching downfield, going for it all! It is caught! Bears win it! DJ Moore!
I like the move. A number 1 wide receiver who never misses starts. DJ Moore worked with Joe Brady, the new head coach of the Bills in Carolina, and he had his best year.
This is one of those situations where an early deadline for a major guarantee forced the Bears to do something, and they found a trade partner with a team coached by someone who knows Moore very well.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
We have breaking news out of the NFL. According to Adam Schefter, wide receiver DJ Moore is being traded to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I guess that's probably safe to assume at this point. Give Colin Cowherd one thing. DJ Moore doesn't miss games. He looked that up, or probably someone did it for him. He has started and played 17 games in each of the last 5 years. This one is complicated for me. Right, back to Colin Cowherd, twice in 1 minute. Number 1 receiver, how do you define it? Is he one of the best, 32 wide receivers in the NFL? Almost definitely not. At 29, almost definitely not. Is he better than anybody the Bills have? Almost definitely yes. We have had this existence where it's true and it's also perceived that we sort of represent some, I don't know, is cult too strong? Like when it comes to wide receivers, like the Bills lose in the playoffs every year because they don't have anybody better than Khalil Shakir. Like, no offense. It's become such a, it started with wide receiver train in the mornings, and it's like a locomotive times whatever. The conversation about this through the years. DJ Moore is complicated for me because as somebody that's like any fan, right? I mean, you've heard about this player he's played 8 years, so at least that long. And he's mostly been buried on teams that didn't go anywhere. That changed last year with the Bears, but his numbers took a dive with the Bears last year because, they had Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Rome Odunze. They ran the ball. Like, it was more of a well-rounded offense as opposed to for most of Moore's career when he was kind of on his own. And that, of course, is, you're going to hear over and over, including from Joe Brady at some point, when Joe Brady was his offensive coordinator. I think Brady and maybe Brandon Beane, who, this is Carolina, if that matters. I think the message from the Bills here is let's party. And I get that for Brady. It's funny, Beane, and I'm not his biggest critic. He has really, his Q rating, has the show ever sounded older? His Q rating has gone way down in 12 months. Way down. But, I'm not as fierce on him as other people. But this is him, and this is Brady, who is also him. Beane's choice, if you want. Dipping back into a player they know at a position that they need. Beane will be interesting to listen to eventually on this, because I wonder if he sounds contrite about wide receiver. He often does not, but you might get that from him. I just decided when the offseason started and we started to throw around names that DJ Moore was someone I wanted no part of. Because I've been hearing for almost his entire career excuses for why he isn't more. And it's, he doesn't have a good quarterback. And then, he gets a good quarterback. But then, he quits on a route to end the season. Or walks off the field during a play. It's not the richest free agent year ever, but I wanted somebody else. I have to be honest. I've said it. We didn't spend a lot of time on DJ Moore. You don't spend a lot of time on guys that are under contract. But I was ready for Mike Evans. I don't know. I don't have every idea ranked, but I didn't want this. And then you get the added fun, exciting combo of what it costs to trade for him and then the money, all of which I hate. I can't believe the Bears did this well for a player everybody knew they didn't want. There it is. 10 words. I can't believe they did as well for a player everybody knew they didn't want. I think it was possible they were going to cut DJ Moore. And I'm giving up pick 60? I really, all due respect, don't care about the history of pick 60. I know what the value of a late second round pick is. And 60 versus 55 or 65 doesn't matter much to me. I have a second round pick I'm giving up for this guy. Yes, I get a fifth. I went to the trusty draft value chart, and there are numerous of these charts, but the one that I use, 300 points. I know, it's math. 300 points for pick 60, 26.2 for a fifth. It's a nice number if you run a marathon, but, we have just about, give or take, 6 months to talk about DJ Moore, and you're going to hear it all. You're going to hear about how finally the Bills did the thing, which was overdue, and, it's not wrong. I think that's mostly going to come from the fan base, which is fine. The fan voice is why we're here. It matters. But it's not always, to be put it mildly, it's not always objective. And then you're going to hear from everybody else, which is everything I saw today online was like, what? And that's really how I tend to be about Bills and Sabres stuff, is more on that side of it, which is not to say we have to fight. People are saying they got better today. Guess what? Every time you've traded a draft pick for a player, you got better that day. But we know better than that, right? I also got, if they win a Super Bowl, we'll love it. Wow, really? Tell me that again? I didn't think about that yet. Every trade in the history of sports looks good if you won a Super Bowl or a title. That's needless. It's useless. They have spent so much money at wide receiver, a position group everybody kind of thinks they're bad at, to rank second in the league in cap at receiver after today. DJ Moore hasn't played it down yet for them, so we'll see what happens. It's exciting. It's interesting to talk about. They didn't sit still. He's a known player. He's really talented. I'm just sort of bracing for, I'm not going to lose sleep over this. It's a year is going to go by first. But I'm sort of, I guess, expecting there to be stuff with him. And maybe that's not fair. But that's my whatever level perception of DJ Moore through his career is. Eventually, I don't want to hear any more excuses. I don't want to hear about how your quarterback wasn't that good. They gave him the best quarterback prospect in years. And, it was mixed. And it's not to say that Caleb Williams was perfect, but it was, at best, mixed. And I want a guy that the Bills would invest in like this to be better than that. I want it to be somebody that is just like, you don't have to have those conversations. You don't have to have those questions about his work rate or whatever it is, He's not big. I'm not going to hold that against him, except for how Mike Evans is, and that the Bills really don't have big at wide receiver. I mean, not in spades. So there it is. It's tons of money, and at some point that does matter. I'm sure there will be a lot of it doesn't coming my way in the next few hours or months. Like, it actually doesn't matter. The salary cap and all of that. I mean, I think it should. To anybody who's serious about this, I think it should. But I will concede there are, compromises you can make or should make even sometimes. And the Bills, of course, have been so close. Will DJ Moore be the difference? I mean, that's the bet. I would have liked a second-round pick. I got excited this morning before any of this, listening to Jeremy and Joe talk about the Rams. And a light bulb went on in my head. Like, this is exactly what the Bills should do, is how the Rams not necessarily trade their number one pick, the Bills, for some all-pro, but load up on the back half of the draft. They haven't done a lot of that. And the Rams have been lucky to do so well with their picks on day 3, but they've also had a lot of them. And I got jealous. I'm hearing about that. I think of the Rams. I think of a team that sells their draft picks, but they only sold some of their early ones. And the whole point, the right point on the draft is what you don't know. And so give me dart throws toward the end. Could even be round 4, which is not even that late, but it's still Saturday. It's still day 3. Give me more of that. And on a team like the Bills are right now, with a lot of, questions, if not issues or problems. I mean, their roster isn't terrible, but they have a lot of issues, or questions about like who's going to do what and how many players are going to end up replacing. To me, the right strategy would be to move down, which I always say, admittedly, because I think it's right, and get to a point where you have 12 draft picks in this draft, say. I mean, I'm not going to go crazy with a number like 20 because that's ridiculous, even if it was fun to do that at firstpick.com 10 years ago. But, give me some real quantity. And don't you agree? Wouldn't you like to think that, because most fans, I think that some teams are better at this than others. I mean, it has to be true on a certain level, but the margins are probably pretty slight. But I think most fans think, how many, people, maybe it's even you, people in your life who think Brandon Beane is bad at drafting. I don't think he's bad at drafting. I think there's a lot of luck in it, and it's a team effort, and, maybe some miscalculations have happened, but I don't think most teams are really bad at it, and I don't think, likewise, most teams are that much better than the field at it. I think there's it's small samples, it's more just kind of random. Not all random, but a lot of it is. Wouldn't you like to think that your Bills, our Bills, if you will, can not beat the game, but come in above average in figuring out what to do with their draft? Wouldn't you like to think that? I don't think most fans think that. And as long as they not move into Saturday or even Friday and sort of bulk up, then, it's going to be tougher for them to change that history or narrative. They did add a fifth today. I got a tweet about like the draft value of the different rounds and everything. I mentioned this already. A second or even a third is by numbers exponentially more valuable than a fifth. But to clarify, what I like about what the Rams' point is having a lot of those picks. And I don't know, I think the Bills are kind of in general a team that could do well to bring in the word I think we would use in media is infusion of young talent. So I don't know. I don't love the player, but he's talented. I hate the cost. I cannot believe that the Bears were able to get as much as a second for DJ Moore, no matter what the fifth is worth. I can't believe that happened. But, it's almost spring. I mean, we want to be in a good mood, and it's a good player they didn't have at a position of need. So, right? What else can I say? 803-0550 for your calls. Oh, one more thing I must say. Bulldog is not here. Can you imagine if he was just sitting here this whole time and I'm like talking? We should try that. At what point would he just like, hi? I mean, we're on camera now, so you would see him. That's funny. Maybe G did a thing where he's superimposed, like he's actually sitting here. He's not. We're trading sick days, it seems, lately. But yeah, so he's not here. I need to say that. How do you feel? We will talk about Colton Parayko flipping off the Sabres. Yep, that is the news from today. He's not Cowboy Dan's not coming. And so plan B, I guess. Travis Yoast will join me at 4:30. He'll want to talk Bills too. I wish we had the whole day with Travis, but that's, asking a lot. Sal Kapacio as well, then pregame Sabres Penguins at 6. Let's hear from you. Here's Steve with us. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Okay.
I just wanted to make a few points about DJ Moore. I think he's a fine player, but in my perspective, every other GM in the NFL should be calling Bean right now to ask him out to dinner because he just got hosed. Good player, but when you look at it, in my mind, all the money that they could have or that they have to free up to spend on this player could have been put towards trying to re-sign Connor McGovern and David Edwards and keeping a second-round pick. I can't see the value there.
Okay, thanks, Steve. This is where I have to be careful. I think where everybody should be careful. Because for everything I've said already, I'm not a huge fan here of this move, this player and trade. But I can't pretend that I didn't care a lot about adding a receiver and then, or thus tell you that I wish they would have spent it on linemen. Like that I can't say that. I won't. I couldn't say that. Because I think wide receiver was important. And this accomplishes that. I mean, is everybody eats dead? Is it no longer everybody eats? Like, are we never going to hear that again? I wouldn't mind if we never heard that again. Because everybody mostly snacked and nibbled. But that's tougher when you're making this kind of a purchase. It shouldn't be everybody eats, right? How do you do this? And then advertise how we're going to, spread the ball so everybody is involved, and that's what's going to make us different and good. You can't, that's got to be put to bed. Yeah, I wouldn't have preferred the Bills make their number one priority lineman. I just can't believe they had to pay this price for this player. Simply, that's it. I'm going to be excited to have this player. And I think it should make them more dangerous. I mean, that's obviously what they're going for. I just cannot believe what it cost. And that's kind of the thing with the Bills, isn't it? Isn't that sort of usually the criticism is, wow, what? I mean, I was tweeting this morning about, I guess I don't follow a lot of fans or any fans I don't know, but nobody on my feed was impressed. It's analysts, it's fantasy. I mean, for fantasy, it's a different context. but nobody was. People were like the Barnwells of the world were in disbelief that this actually needed to be what you paid for DJ Moore. I relate to that. That's to me the leading voice, right? I mean, there's going to be a range of opinions on the player, but pretty much everybody will tell you he's talented, and I'm not going to say he's not. It's just what it cost. And I think, I don't know what you do with this in terms if you're having a conversation with somebody, but if somebody's going to tell you it doesn't matter what it costs, what do you do? What do you say next? Okay, well, what I tend to think is I can't talk to you about this. I think it does matter. And if you think it doesn't, how am I going to convince you that it does? If you're just going to tell me that the cap is meaningless and that who needs draft picks, well, save that for somebody, for the next guy. I can't have a conversation with somebody who's going to tell me that. I think it does matter. I think it absolutely should matter to the Bills. They would never tell you that it doesn't matter to them. But it still happened. Bean had that quote recently where he said that a flaw in his game, not an exact quote, a flaw in his game is sometimes people need to tell me no. That person called in sick. That whoever that person is that he's thinking of when he says that people, sometimes need to rein him in was not around today. Because just be patient. And see what happens to DJ Moore. Who was bidding against you for DJ Moore? I wonder. He would have an answer to that, I would hope. The Bears would. I don't know. I don't know who it is. The Bills are not the only team that needed a receiver, but I don't know. Yikes. A second? The draft is 6 weeks away. A friend of mine tweeted at me, how come this second wasn't so available to the league back in October? Good point. A great point. Here's Zach next. Hi, Zach.
Hey, so I would like to start off by asking, do you know who led the Chicago Bears in receiving last year?
I don't.
Colton Loveland with only 700 and change. So they clearly had the everybody eats bug too, which I think
wait a minute. Hold on a second. That's not a conclusion I would draw. Like he's a first round pick. So, and it was close.
So was DJ Moore, right?
DJ Moore was picked 8 years ago.
Okay. Let me say this though. Okay, so Stefon Diggs and DJ Moore, I just divided the numbers up. Their career numbers are eerily similar. Stefon averages a little more catches, DJ Moore a little bit more touchdowns.
Okay. Well, his career is closer to over. So, I mean, that's the point about the second round pick is you're trading for somebody who's near the end of his career. When the Bills traded for Diggs, they were it was more a player in his prime.
He's 29 years old. He's 29 years old. He's not near the end of his career. He's not Mike Evans coming off an injury.
Well, I preferred Mike Evans because I think he's a lot better. That's really it. And yes, he's older, but the Bears, there it is, like Colson Loveland. It was really close. He came on. That was not trending to happen until later on in the season, and he had big weeks, as I think of it. I mean, I guess I should have looked this up too, but it was really close between four guys. It was not DJ Moore. It was his worst season by statistics, and I'm not sitting here telling you from any position of authority that he was in decline. I don't know that, and I'm not really seeing that today. I just know that it's a tougher bet when you're trading for a player who's not even yet 29, but he will be before the season starts, I guess April. So, yeah, okay, well, here we go. We settled in for 6 months of whether this was a good move. And then the games start. Then we'll really know. 803-0550 for your calls. Thank you, Zach. We have Travis Yoast, Sal Kapacio, like I mentioned, Sabres pregame at 6 o'clock. What's your take? Bulldog is not well. Hopefully tomorrow, trade deadline day tomorrow. Come on. We gotta take our medicine here, both of us. I missed 2 days ago, so I'm not, being critical. We're all going through it. Lines are open for you. Thanks for listening. There's a lot to talk about, and we'll continue doing so after this break. This is Mike Schopp on WGR. He looked that up, or probably someone did it for him. He has started and played 17 games in each of the last 5 years. This one is complicated for me. Right, back to Colin Cowherd, twice in 1 minute. Number one receiver, how do you define it? Is he one of the best? Let's see, 32 wide receivers in the NFL? Almost definitely not. At 29, almost definitely not. Is he better than anybody the Bills have? Almost definitely yes. We have had this existence where it's true and it's also perceived that we sort of represent some, I don't know, is cult too strong? Like when it comes to wide receivers, like the Bills lose in the playoffs every year because they don't have anybody better than Khalil Shakir. Like, no offense. It's become such a, it started with wide receiver train in the mornings, and it's like a locomotive times whatever. The conversation about this through the years. DJ Moore is complicated for me because as somebody that's like, like any fan, right? I mean, you've heard about this player he's played 8 years, so at least that long. And he's mostly been buried on teams that didn't go anywhere. That changed last year with the Bears, but his numbers took a dive with the Bears last year because, they had Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Rome Odunze. They ran the ball. Like, it was more of a well-rounded offense as opposed to for most of Moore's career when he was kind of on his own. And that, of course, is, you're going to hear over and over, including from Joe Brady at some point, when Joe Brady was his offensive coordinator. I think Brady and maybe Brandon Beane, who, this is Carolina, if that matters. I think the message from the Bills here is let's party. And I get that for Brady. It's funny, Beane, and I'm not his biggest critic. He has really, his Q rating, has the show ever sounded older? His Q rating has gone way down in 12 months. Way down. But, I'm not as fierce on him as other people. But like this is him, and this is Brady, who is also him. Beane's choice, if you want. Dipping back into a player they know at a position that they need. Beane will be interesting to listen to eventually on this, because I wonder if he sounds contrite about wide receiver. He often does not, but you might get that from him. I just decided when the offseason started and we started to throw around names that DJ Moore was someone I wanted no part of. Because I've been hearing for almost his entire career excuses for why he isn't more. Bowling math, like front to back bowling math?
No, never.
Did you ever have to write it down?
Yes.
And figure out the math with a pencil?
Yes.
The show has never sounded older.
Yes.
It's about to sound older when I get to the next thing.
I think I knew how to do that at one time in my life, but I have long forgotten.
They just stole the game, right? If you think about that, how that term is used in other sports, how is it? It's Dominic Hasek, Has the show ever sounded older? Like, it's just you get outshot badly, but you still win. And you win in that comparison, you score late to win, right? You're down 2-0 with 3 minutes left. It's like the 2007 team maybe is a better Sabres. You stole the game. They did a lot of that in those. Word, Parker. The throw, if you don't know it, 79 All-Star game. The throw from right field in the Kingdome. The Kingdome is the show ever sounded older than the Kingdome reference.
Yeah, with him, I'd kind of seen the nuances to an offense when he took over the play calling when he was the OC in Carolina. He had new routes, new concepts, everything. It's been a joy to watch him in Buffalo with Josh and see what they've done. Their offense has been electric.
That is DJ Moore sitting with our friend Matt Harmon. Might have been the Super Bowl. Here's to it. You don't have to love it. I don't. But we all hope it works. He's good. He shouldn't be too old. We just have 6 months to talk about it. And I think the price the Bills paid is insane. Pretty much. 803-0550. Travis Yoast in an hour. Travis is maybe my single favorite hockey analyst, and he's also a Bills fan. And I don't know what it tells us about what it's going to sound like in an hour, but he just sent me a list of Bills-Panthers connections, and it's 49 people long. Did Travis compile that? Holy cow. Starting with McDermott and Bean. There's a Captain Munnerlyn sighting.
I know we all joke about it, but 49 people does feel insane.
And it has been almost a decade, but Jeremy's tweet was, Bills trade for someone they know, and
well, he's going to be from Carolina.
He's right. Here's Steve next. Hi, Steve.
What's going on? Good afternoon.
Hi.
So I've just been listening to what you're saying. The more I think about it, the more I come around about the trade. They need a receiver. But let me ask you this. Say they make this trade for Jalen Waddle for the second round. Would you feel differently?
Probably. Younger, better, out of my division? Probably. I don't know the money.
So when you say he's on to personally, DJ's just a year older, or a year and a half older than Waddle, and he's more productive. He hasn't missed a game. I mean, Waddle's missed how many games? You know what I'm saying? So,
right. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a good question, but I think more of Waddle as a player, younger, and I don't have to play him twice. So that's my quick reaction to your question.
Appreciate the call.
All right, thank you, Steve. Thanks for calling me. Owen is next. Hi, Owen.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
I just wanted to praise the move a little bit. Everybody's complaining about how we haven't been aggressive going to try to attack to get a receiver, and now we do, and everybody has a problem with it. The season that we had traded for Diggs, that season, Diggs was 27 years old, and now a 28-year-old DJ Moore is too old. And then complaining about what we paid, it's almost identical to what the Texans paid us for Diggs for a one-year rental. Just feels like everybody's piling on Bean when, we should be praising them for actually being aggressive.
Well, Diggs was 26 when the Bills traded for him.
Yeah,
so
during the season, he was 27 years, so about a year and a half difference is what I'm saying. It's just like the Waddle. Waddle's okay, but DJ Moore is too old. It's a year and a half difference.
Well, listen, I don't know where you get your noise, and I can tell you where I get mine. But you're saying everybody's hating on it? Is that what you're hearing? People are all hating on it?
From the recent callers, the last guy's the first guy I've seen really defend it. And then I go on Twitter and I'm seeing people complain about it. It just feels like we're piling on Bean just because it's a little bit of a Bean hate trade right now, which is well deserved. But
not for me.
Finally, he's aggressive to go get a receiver, and we're mad that it's not the one we want.
I think aggressive is the wrong point. And I would have said this every single time. Drafting Keon Coleman at pick 33 is not a lack of aggressiveness. It's bold. Drafting Dalton Kincaid in the first round is not a lack of aggressiveness. It's the opposite. The Bills have not failed, if that's how you'd want to put it. Maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you would. The Bills have not failed at pass catcher for a lack of trying. Look at the list. It's not 49 people like Travis's Carolina list. Look at the people they've brought in. It's not like they just ignore. Palmer was expensive. Shakir got a huge extension. They've done tons of work at the position.
Last year, we were signing guys off the street. We're not trading for anybody. It was a lack of aggressiveness with where we were in terms of last year.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. The Bean wanted you to know after the deadline passed that he tried for Waddle. Is that a lack of aggressiveness? Is that not trying to trade for Waddle, or is it just not succeeding? So
okay, I just more mean I think maybe aggressive is not the right term, but I feel like we should be praising this more than complaining about a year and a half difference, or we gave up a second round pick when we had got that in compensation for Diggs, who was a 1-year rental.
Well, I would put those things together, Owen. Like it's an equation, and the age difference and the money that they've promised him. I mean, they even reworked him to guarantee money in 3 years. Like, it's not just one thing or the other. It's all of it together that, for me, makes this tough. And then who the player is, and we can all have different opinions about the player. I'm not telling you I don't think he's good. I guess I'm going to have to say this every 5 minutes. He was somebody who was never in my hair. Like, DJ Moore is not Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill or somebody I had to play against, like, ever. But, I mean, have they ever actually played against him? But still, like, what you got from him were these sort of weird moments or excuses. And I just thought there were better ideas that would have probably been cheaper. And I thought, if you told me they were going to get DJ Moore, I'm like, okay, well, there's talent there, but I'm not going to really pay anything, right? It's going to be kind of free because the Bears don't want him around. Everybody knows that. And it so wasn't. But, you know, there's probably two sides to every one of those stories. Walking off the field during a play, who's ever seen that before? I mean, he was so fed up with, and are Bills fans going to just tell me now, like, that's fine? I hope not. I hope we're sort of honest about this to ourselves. And then the last play of their season was against the Rams in the playoffs in overtime, and Caleb Williams is picked off. And now you're going to tell me this is a Collinsworth problem, probably, because I know Bills fans and Collinsworth. Like, that makes any sense. He goes right into, like, what did DJ Moore just do? Why did he stop? And I don't know. Why did he stop? There's just stuff with him that even from way out here turned me off. And then you tell me I got to pay a second and promise him huge money for 3 years? Like, I don't know. I'm out. They're in. I'm out. Here's David next. Hi, David.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
I'm fine.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I'm probably beating a dead horse here, but I mean, a second-round pick for, you know, a guy with this production and the price tag that it comes with it makes absolutely no sense. And it just kind of reinforces, like, what has been Bean's Achilles heel. I mean, like, just no concept for ROI from a salary cap perspective. And we're paying a lot of mid guys to do a lot of mid things. It's not Josh Allen's contract.
Yeah, that's a fair, straightforward line about it, I think. Yeah, thanks. Here is Jerry next. Hi, Jerry.
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Okay.
Do you ever have a player on your fantasy team that taints what you think of him because you watch him much more closely? I had DJ Moore 2 years ago, and all I kept thinking is, all I see out of him, and it might have been a product of Justin Fields, are the Shakir routes, the bubble screens, everything within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage. And I think 29 to the cap and giving up a second rounder is a huge price for someone that I haven't seen exhibit what we need.
Well, I don't know. That part of it is up in the air for me because, like, there is a stat today about how he's had top 5 targets of more than 20 air yards in the league over the last few years, whatever the exact statistic is. So I don't think he's just running all short. And if he is, that's not necessarily a DJ Moore flaw. So I'm not inclined to bang on him for that. I mean, I think he's probably a pretty complete player. And I've got the likes of Matt Harmon telling me so, who, you know, I know who to listen to, I think. And that's a lot for me. So I'm not down on him as a player in any way, except for kind of like the weirdness of certain moments. And that just sort of takes me back to Diggs. Same college, by the way. It takes me back to Diggs because the Bills got Stefon Diggs, and he was such a home run. And then it kind of changed to the point where, do we want to care about, like, that he's sort of putting his arms out toward Allen, like, make a better throw? Do we want to care about that? These guys have a relationship. They've been an elite combination. Do we want to care about that? And I did, because I thought that was such a bad sign for where they all were. And maybe I was right because they traded him and I was not expecting that. And I get that from this player too. That's probably at least a little unfair because he hasn't been here yet, and I'm not closely examining his routes or his team even. But that's like what I think of because, and this, as it happens with receivers, this kind of happens a lot where you've got this production and this talent and this level of stardom, but you know why? This A, B, and C. And that's the impression I have of DJ Moore, that there's stuff that I kind of hope just doesn't come to the surface, but I'm just a fan out here like you are, having your own opinion of the player. And yes, of course I've had that opinion about players in fantasy because I've had everybody in fantasy. I have everybody every year. Here's Louie next. Hi, Louie.
Mike, you know what? I love you to death, but I have to disagree with you today. I really, really do. Because DJ Moore, okay, I know what you're saying about prima donnas, receivers. They put up some, they smirk, they complain, they cry. I get it, the prima donnas. But the guy is productive. Okay, he didn't have a great year last year, but if you look at his numbers, look at his average per catch, look at his availability, the guy never misses a game. The guy's good. The guy's a steady route runner. Yeah, okay, we gave up a second, but, Mike, let's be honest, more like a third-round pick, okay? Look where we're picking. We're getting back a fifth.
You call Coleman a first-round pick, too?
Hey, there's busts everywhere, man.
Do you call Coleman a first-round pick if this trading a second is actually a third? Is that how we're going to do this? It's not a second?
I'm just saying it's a late second-round pick, okay?
Yeah.
It's not a mid-second-round pick or a high second-round pick.
Louis, you're not telling me a single thing I don't know.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is he's a good player.
I said that, too.
He's a good. Well, what are you complaining about? What's the issue?
Haven't you been listening?
Yeah, you don't like the value. I get it. You don't.
Well, there's your answer. You answered your own question.
Well, you think that they're going to cut him and just let him go like that? There's a lot of if they do that, it's because you know what they're cap-struck. Okay, I get it. Every team is in a certain situation. Some teams are different from the cap than other teams. But the guy is a good player, Mike. We haven't had a player on our team that's been available. Okay, so this guy at least is good.
Well, listen, I'm not wearing my Bills goggles, I guess, Louis.
I don't understand what you.
I can't even hear you anymore. I don't know. I didn't say that I knew the Bears were going to release him. I just know that there was speculation along those lines because his role was compromised and the money is ridiculous for a player giving them what he gave them last year, and he's a year older. So I'm not telling you, don't go telling people that in your life that I said that. I just read that it was possible. And I just can never imagine feeling like I'm just so far removed, so out of touch with like this kind of speculation that I would feel like I had to give a second-round pickup, which is not a third. It is late. You're not telling me anything I don't know. I'm sorry if you thought you were. 803-0550, I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is out sick. Tomorrow is NHL trade deadline day, and so we very much want to have him back for that, as we do every day. Thanks for listening. Your calls are welcome. This is WGR.
803-0550 is the number. Let's squeeze Luke in here in this first segment. Hi, Luke. Thanks for calling. You're on WGR.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Just wanted to kind of get your opinion on Ryan Reeves. He's on waivers. Maybe we bring him in. He's 2 hours away. Sell some tickets. Elevate the team a little bit. What do you think?
I think that's one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. Thank you for calling.
Pants you got on today? I wake up every morning. I put my big boy pants on. What kind of pants you got on? My big boy pants.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life.
Sabres and Penguins tonight on ESPN. 6 o'clock pregame. Buffalo 4 straight wins, but no Colton Parayko. He put the kibosh on that. Sounds like he's still open to being traded, but just not here. So a new enemy, I guess. Whatever. The Sabres are used to this. You know, just quickly, and I might want to elaborate on this later or in the next few months, but the Sabres are, as has been a top storyline of theirs forever, is like they're kind of always being forced to overpay. The real life pressure, you know, to keep you in Buffalo, right? Kind of all obvious. I just feel like Josh Allen means the Bills should never have to do that. That's what we all say too. I mean, we made fun of Kevin Adams and raked him over the coals for the palm trees, but taxes, right? But was he wrong? Like, just don't say it, maybe. But everybody sort of gets that they're disadvantaged to some extent. But we also all say that the Bills are the opposite because Allen exists. And so who wouldn't want to come play for Buffalo, right? And this trade for me is like almost like you're the Sabres, where you just feel like you have to spend the second round pick, guarantee the money, lock them up, no questions asked right away. And I feel like that's kind of scary. George is next. Hi, George.
Afternoon, Mike. Hey, you know, I was thinking on that trade. I don't hate it by any stretch of imagination. I do think it would be interesting, which I don't believe it's in Bean's best interest to do it, but it would be interesting to see if they took that first rounder and added another wide receiver as well. And that would be a formidable whiteout wide receiver room, in my opinion, anyways. It'd be quite formidable. But the reason I called was I was going to say it'd be interesting to see if Bean actually goes without the second rounder. I have a weird suspicion that he may find a way to recoup that second rounder somehow. I don't know how that looks, but if it's trade the first for someone who has 2 seconds or something like this.
Probably should do that.
To kind of recoup it that way and then go after maybe, a wide receiver, offensive and defensive pick there. And as far as the Sabres trade, I didn't like it from the get-go. It's not about first rounder. It rarely is about the prospect who I loved when they drafted him. It would be nice if they could hang on to him because inevitably in a couple of years, I do think that one of those defensemen that are currently in our top 4 will be moved out.
Yeah, maybe. Thanks, George. I want to say about the draft, I'm not like I'll sleep on a billboard for a week guy. If the Bills spend their first-round pick on a wide receiver after today, I don't know. I want to say something akin to that. I would absolutely be blown away. I think it would look ridiculous if they did that. Not to those of us who are like always thirsting for receivers. Go load up. This team has needs. It's a strong draft for edge rushers. They need help in the secondary. They might lose 2 starting offensive linemen. They cannot draft Casey Concepcion after today. They took themselves out of the running for that. And you can't wait until a month from now if you want to trade for DJ Moore. This is when you do it if you're going to do it. So I get that. But they're absolutely not spending that pick on a wide receiver. If they trade down for 2 seconds, they should. They need players. And they just cost themselves a player in the draft that you'd like to think would be a starter, maybe right away, but for years. That's even at pick 60. That's, not a long shot. It should be the goal. But there's just no way they're doing right. No, yes. I mean, there's no way they're drafting a receiver in the first round now. Look at the money. Look at the money they spend on the other guys. Shakir, Palmer, Coleman is pick 33. Samuel is still here. Like, not all those guys will still be here, but they have literally the second highest cap number at wide receiver in the NFL. They want another one? I can't believe they're going to want another one. They're not all set everywhere else. To me, that is off the table. And it's another reason why I wish today hadn't happened this way. Back to your calls next at 803-0550. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
The Buffalo Bills get themselves on the board this offseason as they make a trade and go out and acquire wide receiver DJ Moore and a 5th-round pick from the Chicago Bears for a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft, although none of this will be official until next week with the start of the new league year. Moore, though, who is turning 29 this offseason, had just 50 catches for under 700 yards this past season, but the year prior had 98 catches and just shy of 1,000 yards. We'll get more on this trade when Sal Kapacio joins the show in just about an hour at 5 p.m. Now to the Sabres, who are not having the same amount of luck as the Bills, as the reported deal for Blues defenseman Colton Parayko is off, as Parayko has decided to not waive his no-trade clause. The Sabres, though, will have until tomorrow's deadline at 3 to see if they want to get something done. Tonight, though, they are at Pittsburgh. Puck drop is at 7, pregame at 6, and tonight, for television purposes, it is an ESPN game. So if you do want to listen to Dan Dunleavy and Rob Ray, it's going to be right here on WGR. There were, though, some trades to report for today. The Maple Leafs have sent forward Nick Waugh to Colorado for a 2027 conditional 1st-round pick and a conditional 2026 5th. And Vegas gets forward Nick Dowd from Washington for goalie Jesper Vikman, a 2nd in 29 and a 3rd in 2027. And then 7 other games to keep an eye on tonight. Some of the notable matchups, though, include also at 7, the Rangers hosting Toronto and the Panthers. They're in Columbus versus the Blue Jackets. At 8, Tampa is at Winnipeg. And then at 9:30 to wrap up your evening, the Kings, they host the New York Islanders. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
There's one chip and only one chip for the guacamole. That's that Cantina Gold, thick in the yellow bag.
It's Mike Schopp.
No thin crisp, no scoops. Get out of here with a hint of lime. Horrendous choice.
And the Bulldog.
The lime is just too much lime. There's lime in the guacamole. Any more lime is too much lime. You're crossing the lime. You've crossed the lime. If you're using a hint of lime in the guacamole with the lime, you've crossed the lime.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
An hour in and haven't spent a minute on Parayko. I want to do this real quick, and then fans are waiting to talk about the DJ Moore stuff, which I think is really fun and interesting. Yesterday, I was baffled. I think a lot of us were, that it kind of played out the way that it did. That you had the insiders jumping in on that this trade has been agreed to, and then, oh, wait a minute, well, he doesn't have to go. And I just was confused by, like, why they wouldn't have known that first. But, you know, I went to college for journalism and communications, and a reporter doesn't have to wait for the player to give his consent or something. Like, if you find out there's a trade, you can report that. I just don't think most of those guys do it that way. I think it's a collaborated effort with the teams, how they get stories. You know, almost never is anything broken locally. It's all through the Schefters and the Darren Dreggers and those people. So why did it go that way? Then we had a second trade the same day where the same thing happened. That player, Uyghur, eventually waived his no-trade clause and agreed. And then today, Parayko did the opposite. I just wonder if, like, how many people knew about it, and it makes me rethink, like, where does the information come from? Because the reporter doesn't want the problem with the teams or the players or anything, but when this happens, like, nobody looks good. The Sabres don't look good. They traded for a player. They might have even overpaid, but still they're going for it. They traded for a player who didn't want to play for them. We didn't have to know about that, but we do. The player doesn't look great because a lot of people with St. Louis would like to think that he would take the trade to give them the 2 firsts and whatever. That might still happen through another team, but to this point, there's a little bit of that, and it all just looks everybody looks disorganized when it comes to this. How many people knew, and where does the information come from? I just feel like we never really needed to know. I like knowing that this trade was agreed to, but it sort of feels like it never really needed to get out. And then the player could have said no, and it's always just like something we never heard about. So it's still interesting and kind of confusing to me, but disappointing. Travis Yoast will be on with me in 25 minutes, and he'll tell you that the Sabres dodged a bullet. It's one of the first things I saw yesterday when the trade was reported that Travis doesn't like it. If Travis doesn't like it, I don't think I like it. So I got excited about it, but maybe it's best this way. Just another blow to the psyche that here are the Sabres. I mean, they're 2 points out of first, and they can't get a 32-year-old defenseman that might not even be that good anymore. Ouch. All right, let's go to Kelsey here. Hi, Kelsey.
Hi, Mike. I just want to tell you, first of all, that I've listened to you guys since, I think, about 03, or whatever year that was. I actually drive a longer route home from work to make sure that I have the cell data in order to listen to you guys, with the Odyssey app.
Thank you. That's a great compliment.
Yep. And I have 2 quick points. One you might not agree with.
Hey, hang on, Kelsey, before you go. Does your employer give you a hard time for the extra miles?
No, he's great. And they actually pay for my gas, too.
Okay, good. I don't want you to get any trouble. All right, good.
No, it's okay. The only thing I kind of disagree with about the second round trade, I don't know if I disagree or not, but didn't we get a second round pick for Diggs when we traded with Houston?
Yes, the Bills got a second round pick for Diggs a year out. So the trade was 2 years ago? And they got the pick for 25. Do I have my numbers right? So this would be a little richer than that because it's this year's draft. It's usually like, they say anyway, Kelsey, like a round different. So if you wanted a second next year would be like a third this year, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what I do agree with is your analyzation of the Rams drafting point. Something I thought you would have brought up. You didn't bring it up, but I heard earlier in the day that they actually don't even attend the combine.
It's wild.
And just they just go by what their scouts say, and rather than doing these interviews with every player or bringing them in and then coming up with reasons not to pick them, if they bring them in, they don't like their interview or something,
or they overlike it to make up a word, right? They could like it too much and then fall into a trap. Yeah, Kelsey, thanks. I talked about this with Bulldog a lot yesterday. It's a great subject, how whether it's football or anything, how the job interview, you can read on this online. I'm not the expert, but I've read on it. It's really fascinating how the job interview can be counterproductive. And I think at the root of the Rams and now the Jaguars, whose GM comes from the Rams, what it is we don't want to fall into a trap. And we're just going to watch the tape. And what I do like about the Rams stuff more is that they've backloaded their drafts. So they might have traded their number one. They did that yesterday. They still have Atlanta's for this draft, by the way, but they traded their own first-round pick to the Chiefs. And, that's a choice. But they get later picks, or they have later picks, and that's what they've done. And they've been able to hit big on a lot of those picks, which is why they have a great team. Well, part of it, Puka Nacua is one of the best receivers in the NFL, if not the best, and he's a Saturday pick. So they got lucky there. There's luck in it, but they've been of the mind to pile up day 3 picks, and I think that that's a great move. And I'd like to see the Bills do that, which means now I've traded my second. I think I want to turn my first into 2 seconds. I might want to turn one of those into 2/3, and I want to do that dance because they need players. They took their shot today, but they still need players. So I would like to see them add picks. Thanks, Kelsey. Again, I appreciate what you said. Let's go to Mike next. Hi, Mike.
How's it going? Thanks for letting me call in. The DJ Moore trade today, I am not feeling very good about it. The guy quit on plays last year when the ball wasn't going to him, when he wasn't happy with the quarterback. He has come out and said that he doesn't work out in the offseason at all. Not the type of player that our old coach would want. And it's obvious that Joe Brady wanted this guy because when they drafted him, he was the OC. If Ben Johnson's only getting 600 yards out of this guy in 17 games, I can't imagine that Joe Brady's going to get much more out of him. To me, DJ Moore is more of an inside receiver who catches short passes, and he has the ability to go over the top, but he's not going to win on routes in short separation. He's going to win with his athleticism. All of this, to me, sounds like a more developed Keon Coleman. And I think we messed up when we made Joe Brady the head coach. I really do. This is it's obviously a Joe Brady move, and the GM giving the head coach what he wants. The guy makes 4 years, $100 million. I think he's our second highest paid player now for someone that's a number 2 at best. I don't see where we're going with this. We're really going to get into the new stadium and we're going to trot out Javon Solomon as our edge rusher on the other side of Rousseau. I'm not seeing where the money's going, what players are coming in. And to me, I'd rather have Connor McGovern than DJ Moore. I think Connor McGovern would help the team more than DJ Moore would.
Okay.
Maybe you could sway me, but
no, I'm not. I'm not inclined to.
Ready to happen.
This is a phone call where I'm sort of sitting here nodding to myself, listening. Like this, a lot of this makes sense to me. I guess I want to say about to push back on anything, I might want to say about the Bears that was a first year for that coach with those players and a quarterback who had, to be kind, a very uneven rookie year, and they did it through different ways. They got some luck, and then they had 4, I want to say, comparable target options. So, thank you, Mike. I thought that was really thought-provoking. They were not a team where I'm not here, I'll just say it. I'm not holding last year against DJ Moore. I think guys get older. He's played, he never misses a game. So you look at his numbers and it's 17 starts. Like, he's very durable. It's also Diggs in this way where, like, Diggs never missed. DJ Moore never missed. But that there's also a toll that gets taken. And I'm not holding last year's numbers against him. I think the trade is egregious for what the Bills gave up. But I'm not sitting here coming from a standpoint that, like, he's done. But everybody gets older, and it comes at different times for different players. Receivers-wise, the data suggests the bigger you are, the longer you can hold off the age curve. That's what got me more into Mike Evans as an idea. I'm not as worried about him, crashing out as I would be about Diggs or even DJ Moore, who's younger than Diggs. But otherwise, you make some good points. Let's go to Dave next. Hi, Dave.
Hey, how's it going today?
Okay.
Good. Well, I want to talk about DJ. I'm going to hope to try to sway you guys just a little bit. I'm down here in Charlotte. Been blessed to be able to be on the field for some of the games as part of, like, the hype group for the Panthers, and got to watch DJ and get to know him a little bit personally as well. And so this is a guy who is, one, extremely classy. I've seen him go out of his way for many, many individuals, staying after games, going before the games. Never in the time that I saw him in Carolina, not denying what we saw in Chicago, take plays off. Great downfield blocker. I know the last guy was saying just a little better than Keon. He is much better than what Keon has shown, much more mature. His route running skills are stronger. He's a good leader for his team. I see this being as an absolute steal for us. I know some people don't like getting rid of the second rounder, and I can kind of understand that. But if we can get the production that we've seen out of him, he's going to do that, and he's going to make the other receivers much better too.
Well, that part goes without saying, I think, Dave. Like, if this is like saying if they win, it'll be worth it. Of course. I mean, if they get 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns, then we're not going to care as much about the draft pick, and that's obvious. That is always true. But it's still like an if, and it really just doesn't need to be said. I mean, of course. I mean, if they win the Super Bowl 3-0, nobody's going to complain about trading for DJ Moore. So that's how that goes. I guess accepting and appreciating all your thoughts from, boots on the ground. It's not a steal. You can't. You can say things like, if we win, if this, if that. You don't have to bother wasting your breath. That's always the case. It doesn't need to ever be said. Of course that's true. The price is the point. The price is the point. And he might be the world's best guy, but I think we're talking about a player that could have been cut. And when the news broke and it was put as a mid-round pick, I don't know, was that just wrong? Because a second-round pick is not a mid-round pick. There's no scenario where it is. Was that just wrong or what? I think, like a lot of people I was reading when I was finding out about this trade, if you're talking about a Saturday pick for a guy making so much money that's probably entering the downside, all right, well, I need somebody. And I don't love the player, but it's better. And that's not what happened. So it's not a steal in my book by any stretch. It's a huge price to pay for a guy that there are questions about. But he is talented. No one says different. Let's go to Rob next. Hi, Rob.
Hey, guys. Hope all's well.
I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah, so I'm actually in the minority here, and I feel like I actually like the move that we made today. I think, obviously don't love giving up a second-round pick, but, I mean, the plays this guy made in the playoffs were phenomenal. And I don't know, has Moore really had a top, end quarterback like Allen before?
No.
I just don't think you're going to see a guy in the second round making those plays in those big moments like DJ Moore did in the playoffs this year. So I'm a fan of it. Thoughts?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, probably not as a rookie. You wouldn't expect to get just to say it, pick 60 is if you had to draft a wide receiver with that pick, he's wide receiver 8 in the draft. And so who would have a better season? Wide receiver 8 or this guy in a vacuum? This guy. The bet would be DJ Moore, minus 200. I mean, that would be the bet. But I don't need to tell you, the draft isn't drafting a player for 1 year. And, there's big guaranteed money being bet on this guy for years, which I guess this is what reminds me of sort of like a Sabres thing, which isn't even that fair to the Sabres, but like sort of, please like us. Here's guaranteed money, rework the deal, you make your moves with the cap number and all that, which helps you always in the short term, but you still have to pay. Eventually, you still have to pay. And it's like one of these where on the plus side, you're trying to win and you're adding a good starter. Like that's what you do. On the other side, almost definitely it will become an eyesore on your cap. And you just have to hope that doesn't happen for a few years. Like Von Miller, who is older, not apples to apples, but, when you trade for Von Miller or sign Von Miller, that's very exciting. And anybody ripping it is going to get ripped back because it means you hate them or something. But it was always true. Like eventually you're going to have a problem. You're going to have to deal with the cap. And that just kind of keeps happening for the Bills. Now we're into an offseason where they've had their window. They've been close, but haven't won, haven't even gotten there. And it's just like it piles up. And I just added to the pile with this trade. Again, like it doesn't even need to be said. If you win, it's fine. If you win, everything's fine. Here's Chris next. Hi, Chris.
Hey, how are you doing?
Okay.
Yeah, so this DJ Moore trade, I guess you'd call it a love-hate relationship with it. I mean, on the one side, we needed a receiver. I get that. And going out and getting DJ Moore is going to be better than, in this year, anybody than you would probably get with that second-round pick. But also, when I heard a mid-round pick, I was thinking like, okay, probably a fourth, maybe a third, and I could have lived with that. But a second-round pick with the cap space that we have and the cap that the hit that he's going to give us, it just seemed like a lot to me.
Yep.
And, you can make the argument all day, like I said, about his presence on the team. But I will say, also that this puts us, I think, in a good position for the draft because the Bills have so many options of what they can do now. And with them switching to the 3-4, we're going to need defense.
Well, I mean, that's still true. They've also, which is unfortunate, I guess, maybe that's not the best word, they've already done a lot of that in drafts like last year. So I think I'd only have an appetite for so much of it, but they just made their second-round pick today. They added a fifth. That shouldn't be completely ignored, but it's way, way less valuable. The second-round pick is in. Wide receiver. They're not spending the first-round pick on another one. I mean, I just don't even know what I would do if that happened. It's better than drafting 2 linebackers, I guess, but I just wouldn't even know what to do with that. I can't believe that'll happen. Yeah, I think Brady, I mean, he's in charge now. And I think this is interesting to monitor. We've started with him and are asking questions about how much authority he had before to run the offense he wanted. One thing that DJ Moore said or implied in that clip with Matt Harmon is that, when he played for Brady in Carolina, there were nuances and there was like I don't know, this is not a quote, but I got the sense, if it isn't a quote, that they wanted to really open things up and, did some of that. And that has not been the story with the Bills under Brady. And we all wonder, well, is that because of Brady or because of McDermott or because of the roster, which is constructed with the coaches in mind? And I think Brady, I would say this to him, with due respect to McDermott, I think Brady should want you to think that, oh, that wasn't really me. Some of the good parts, yes, but I think he might want to open it up. I mean, why do you do this for this price if you don't? So it goes against the logic I've been leaning on for a couple of years when it comes to James Cook and 3 tight ends and Alec Anderson, That's kind of the Bills' identity in the last couple of years, and what it isn't is throwing the ball down the field. And I think, it's March 5th. I think Brady should want you to think, us to think, that he wants to change that fundamentally. Not drastically, but fundamentally. And so, if I'm right, I mean, it's not just what do they want to say, but it's what they want to do. And this lines up with that we want to be, you want your opponent to think that, let alone the fans. You want who you're playing to think that you're dangerous down the field. And the Bills were so not dangerous. And you could say 30 points a game, again, playoffs, 30 points. Still, it has been said that you're throwing to Brandon Cooks and McCole Hardman to end your season. Like that should be improved upon. So I think that is, where this takes me today. And that's all, I guess, mostly irrespective of what they paid in this trade. But, logically, the more you give up to accomplish this, the more you want to think that this is where you want to end up, how you want to play. Sammy Watkins, which is now like ancient history, but that trade was tough. And I decided to ride the wave. Bulldog hated it, and we hung out every day talking about Sammy Watkins. And what it had to be with E.J. Manuel at the time, right? What it had to be is, are you going to do that? You're going to trade up, not try for Mike Evans, hope to have him fall in your lap, or even Odell Beckham, who would have. You're going to make that power move for Watkins is one thing you can't do. And that's hide him. This is now your most important player. And the Bills didn't do that. And he wasn't a quarterback, but they really didn't do that. I mean, there were games where he almost never got the ball. And that was just a total sign of dysfunction. So, I mean, DJ Moore doesn't have to catch 120 passes necessarily, but you want to think from this, they'll be more open and throw the ball, just sort of do all the things you would do if you had this player. Let's hope. I want to say, let's hope. Travis Yoast next. Some Sabres and Bills with Travis. Sal Kapacio at 5. Sabres and Penguins tonight. Pregame at 6. No Bulldog today. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
The Buffalo Bills add a wide receiver as they acquire Chicago Bears DJ Moore and a 5th-round pick. And they send the Bears a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft to get it done. Moore, who is turning 29 years old this offseason, had just 50 catches for under 700 yards this season, but the year prior had 98 catches for 966 yards. We'll get more on this trade when Kapacio does join the show at 5, and this will not become official until next week when the new league year does begin. Now to the Sabres, who are not having the same trade luck as the Bills, as the reported deal for Blues defenseman Colton Parayko is off. Parayko has decided not to waive his no-trade clause. The Sabres, though, do still have until tomorrow at 3 p.m. if they want to get a deal done somewhere else around the league. However, tonight they do have a game. They're at Pittsburgh. Puck drop is at 7, pregame at 6, and for television purposes, tonight is an ESPN game. So if you want to hear Dan Dunleavy and Rob Ray, it's going to be right here on WGR. And then there are 7 other games tonight, some notable matchups to keep an eye on. Also at 7, the Rangers hosting Toronto, and the Panthers, they are in Columbus versus the Blue Jackets. At 8, Tampa is at Winnipeg, and then at 9:30, the Kings, they host the New York Islanders. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Welcome back. The word luck is interesting to me in these trade reports, in how, like, were the Bills lucky to make the DJ Moore trade? I don't know. Maybe they would have been better off without it. One can debate that. Were the Sabres perhaps lucky that Colton Parayko said no? Here's someone who I think would tell us yes to that question. Travis Yoast. Travis, did you really go through yourself and compile this list of names of people that have worked for the Bills and Panthers? I know a guy in sales who you could add to it if you want. Or did you copy this from something?
No, in the age of AI now, someone just gently pointed out to me, like, hey, you could probably just ask a chat about this, and they'll figure it out pretty quick. And sure as the day is long, we've not only got an answer, there's 49 names, by the way. And since 2017, 49 previously existing Carolina Panthers front office coaches or players have subsequently made their way to Buffalo. So the next one will be number 50. DJ Moore is number 49. Which, does that make John Fox 48? I'm losing track.
All these years growing up and living in Western New York, I always knew that people left Western New York for places like Charlotte. Now the Bills are doing their best to reverse that over the last decade. Well, let's hear your take on this trade before we get into the Sabres, Travis, the main reason for our calling you this time, as always. Do you like it? Can you defend it?
I can defend it. I guess I can defend it. I don't know if I like it. Here's what I will say. It's a very nuanced trade in that the Bills obviously are in this pretty significant pressure cooker to upgrade the wide receiver room, and effectively immediately, right? I mean, they cannot go into September without really overhauling the wide receiver room, but also they made such a broad organizational change that everyone knows that a lot of the investment this year, like it or not, 10th year in a row, is going to be on the defensive side of the ball. And in many respects, you know, you could throw your hat and say, how many years have we invested in the defense to watch the offense come up just short a little bit here? But they really have overhauled through the coaching changes, bringing in Jim Leonard. Like, you know, they're going to overhaul a lot of what that defense looks like. They're going to need capital and draft picks to do that. And so I think it made a lot of sense for them to look around the league and see what is out there for a plug-and-play veteran. And, you know, I've seen some criticism of, you know, DJ Moore doesn't really bust his proverbial butt on every single route, this, that, and the other. He had a down year. But, like, this is exactly the type of player that you try and buy on a one-year, you know, a player who's had a great career, who always flashes. He's had one down year. To me, that's a reasonable, like, can we buy low candidate. So when I saw the trade announced, and I'm like, oof, knowing that DJ Moore has got this massive contract, even with some sort of restructuring, I was like, okay, well, I assume the comp is going to be pretty thin because you've really let the Bears off the hook here. The Bears have this DJ Moore contract, as expensive as it is long, and they hit on a couple of younger receivers to the point where they need this capital now to look,
Chicago, we've already heard them rumored to be interested in Max Crosby, a couple other names. They're going to need money and cap flexibility to do that. So I was assuming, hey, look, this will be a pretty thin comp, and then I'll like the deal. But when it came out that it was a second-round pick, and I get that the Bills get a fifth-round pick back, they paid a pretty big premium to get a pretty good number 2 wide receiver who's got a lot of term on that deal. And, yes, he is the best receiver Allen has had since Diggs. I don't even think that's debatable. But they paid a pretty big premium to do so. The only thing I would say, and I'll end on this, I get that a lot of the a lot of remaining investment's going to be probably on the defensive side of the ball. They cannot be done with the wide receiver room, and maybe that's an easy thing to say because it would seem foolish and unlikely that they would stop here. But this kid has to be one of likely 2 or even 3 moves to that wide receiver room. I would still hope that one of their first couple picks is used on a receiver here.
Well, I would be blown away if that were their first-round pick. There are always more trades that can happen. But after today with their holes, I can't imagine they're doing that. Maybe in round 3. Otherwise, you better cross your fingers. I mean, I think it's completely reasonable, like you do, to want to do that. But, I mean, you've got to nail it. And they've done that with, Shakir isn't elite, but that's a win of a draft pick. Gabe Davis was also a win of a draft pick, day 3. You can hope for Puka, somebody like that. But I think that's probably got to be where this happens now.
Yeah.
And, the odds are not great.
I will say 2 things there, too, right? You really need 3 positions, receiver, linebacker, edge. Because of the trading out of the second round pick, it seems like, I agree with you, it seems likely they're going to go best player available based on fit between backer and edge, maybe more likely edge since it's more of a premium position. But even you're kind of looking at the stars trying to figure out how the board's going to fall. I would say that, if nothing else, this team has shown that they can patchwork a linebacker room. I mean, they did it last year. They've done it a couple times now. But, boy, it doesn't leave me I could see maybe even the base case scenario is they invested a wide receiver, they improved the defensive line again, but they're super thin on linebacker and are scrabbling around for veterans. I could see that being the weak part of the defense once again in next year.
With Travis Yoast of TSN, one of our favorite, if not the favorite, hockey analyst of this show, the NHL trade deadline is tomorrow. So enough football for now. Travis, I know the answer. In your opinion, did the Sabres get off the hook by Colton Parayko not waiving his no-trade clause?
Yes, and I want to be very nuanced in my answer too here because I don't want to say I caught flack, but a good healthy level of pushback of why don't you want to trade for an Olympian top 4 defender after we're in this near 2-decade playoff drought. He clearly improves the team. What are you talking about, Trav? And it's like, pause right there. Colton Parayko makes the Sabres better tomorrow, unequivocally. There's no doubt about it. But if you've watched Parayko this year, there is in my opinion, an interesting question about, are we starting to see a slowdown in an otherwise uber-talented, potentially Hall of Fame level defenseman who's now 32 years old, who's been dealing with intermittent back issues this year, and you'd like to believe those are temporary. I think the latest report was it's intermittent back spasms, whatever the case is. But when you watch St. Louis, and I wholeheartedly acknowledge that the environment in the Blues and how bad they've been has likely sunk Parayko because even superstars can get caught up in the muck on otherwise really bad teams. And I still think Parayko has a few years left. But this is a player on the wrong side of 30 with a very large cap hit that the Sabres were going to trade not 1 but effectively 2 first-round picks for to add a position that I know they want a right-shot defenseman, and I think they do in some respects need a right-shot defenseman if you start thinking about him in the perspective of, is this a fringe playoff team or a team that can win in the playoffs? So the premium or the value proposition for chasing this type of player is elevated, and I recognize that. But they were giving a pretty significantly expensive package for Parayko when I didn't even think Parayko was the best fit or even a top 2 fit from the Blues lineup to if Buffalo was really sitting in the driver's seat as a buyer. All of the talk in the last week about Robert Thomas, and I get it. Fans and analysts, doesn't matter what, coaches, doesn't matter. You can never fall in love with an idea. And it's not clear with 24 hours still to go if Robert Thomas was an idea or a loudly talked about idea. It seems like it was between the Blues and Sabres, even though reports indicate it's chilled. But he is really what the Sabres need, which is a pretty talented middle six center who provides insurance down the middle of the lineup behind Tage Thompson. And, by the way, provides insurance for a player like Josh Norris, who I like Josh Norris, but you do have a couple of players on this roster who have been in and out of the lineup for durability concerns. I think the acquisition price for a Thomas would be thinner than a Parayko, and I think he's more productive where he's at in his career right now on a relative basis than Parayko is. So, I look at, and by the way, I said top two because to me, the number one player on my trade board, even when Breadman was available, and I'm not saying he's a better player, I thought he was the most interesting. Based on the likely price to acquire, he might be the best buy that you can find, and he's got a longer-term contract, and he's a winger. But Jordan Kyrou on the Blues, too, is another player who, if I'm the Sabres and I'm like, man, we can get rolling at 5-on-5, like that's been true for 2.5, 3 years now. It's remarkably true here. How do I even fortify further the middle six? Like, if I could simulate a trade package where the Sabres invested several current picks and future assets for a Thomas and Kyrou combo and added that salary, there would be some serious financial wrangling in the years to come and figure what it means for Alex Tuch, a couple other guys on the roster. But in my opinion, that's the type of trade that actually elevates Buffalo into, can they win the Eastern Conference now? I don't know that Parayko moves the needle in the same way. And I'm sympathetic to the idea, and I do like the player, but they were giving up quite a bit for a guy who, at least I think it was fair to say, there are questions about. I recognize he's a fantastic defensive defenseman and still a very good one today, but what does his game look like to now and over the next 18 months? I don't know that it was as convincing as it might be for a couple of these other younger players out there.
Okay. What's the difference? I got about 3 minutes, Travis, if you do. What's the difference between making the playoffs in the East this year and making a run? Isn't it pretty flat?
I'd say so. I think a lot of it comes. I think there's two teams, if you're the Sabres, that you probably don't want to play if you have your pick, and that's the Hurricanes, obviously, and the Lightning. And I think the Sabres can play with both of these teams. And quite frankly, I think there's an argument, depending on what Tampa Bay does. Let me just say this. I'm very curious to see what the Lightning do in the next 24 hours because, they've been connected to Blake Coleman, a couple other names. I don't know how much they can reasonably add, though, with their cap situation. I think Carolina is always going to remain one of the league's, preeminent teams. They've been one of the most winning teams the last 6-7 years. It's no different this year. They actually have the makeup of a team that can skate. They're one of the few teams that go 3-4 lines deep, 2-3 pairings deep. And when the Sabres play against the Carolina team, it hasn't always been true, but that's one of the few teams in the league that you can look at if you're the Sabres and say, yeah, they can not only play with us 5-on-5, they might be a little better than us. But that list is getting shorter and shorter by the week. I think the path to winning the East really comes down to, can you only just play one of those teams? Can you get some fortune in the other division and see Carolina bounce early and you only have to get through Tampa? Or maybe someone else takes care of Tampa. Montreal's a pretty live team in that division as well. But playing both those teams certainly makes the road a little bit harder. But if we've seen anything from the Sabres this year, they're resilient, which is crazy to say. They're one of the hottest teams in the league, which is also crazy to say. And they're likely going to be buyers in the next 24 hours. We don't know what that name is yet or if he has a no-trade clause. But it seems likely that this team will be better, not worse, one day forward. So, yeah, I think there's every reason to be optimistic about where the Sabres are right now and where they're headed into April.
One thing we know about this Eastern Conference field, no Patrick Mahomes, so that's open. You don't have to worry about going through him. Travis, if you can in like 2 minutes or less, what do you have a thought on how the story got out with Parayko before he had decided on his future? To me, it's interesting. I think we might have some of the same sensibilities about how the insider machine works. And I wonder if, like, the agents were in play here. There's discussion online today about whether this was done to put pressure on the player. And I think that that's logical because he can look bad if he says no.
This stuff only gets out for a handful of reasons at best. And one of them absolutely is to apply pressure. And by the way, I don't blame. I got to be honest. I don't blame the insiders who are reporting this stuff. because they're down line from this information. Like you can yell at these guys all day long. I work with a few of them, right? Like you can scream until you're blue in the face. They're recipients of information. They're sitting on this information. It's not a trade secret. It's not a state secret. Like this is real NHL news. And just because a GM of a team says, "Hey, we're making this trade. You got 24 hours to decide if you're going to waive." Like, okay, that doesn't mean that's not going to hit the news wire. And to your point, by the way, it is worth underlining here. This is not a one-off with Parayko. It happened with Tyler Myers and the Detroit Red Wings, just the same. And Myers eventually said, "No, thank you, Detroit." Ends up in Dallas. So, like, there's. I think this is a bit of a new wrinkle that the league, the front office, the agents, and the insiders, kind of as an aggregate, are all dealing with. But I think so. I think some real learning lessons were handed out this week because multiple times news got out in front of the actual trade being completed. The trade had to be walked back. And by the way, the damage that does to the guys who didn't know they were being traded, but all of a sudden are being traded, but now they're not being traded. Boy, whether it's the Sabres, the Red Wings, any other team for that matter, it's not just about the guys like Parayko who have the decision to say, "I'm not interested in waiving." It's prospects and young players and even rostered players who are saying, "Wait, you were trying to trade me?" I don't know how that goes around in the locker room, but it can't go well.
Well put, as always. Travis, great to talk to you again. Enjoy deadline day.
Take care and tell Bulldog to get better. I don't know what's going on around Western New York.
It's flu B and some different. You've had your experiences as we've had in my house too. It's that I was feeling maybe it's if you're superstitious, this would be my fault. Like a couple of weeks ago, I haven't gotten sick yet, and he and I both for the last week or so have kind of been back and forth. But anyway, we'll get through it. Sal Kapacio coming up at 5. This is Mike Schopp on WGR. DJ Moore has 2 career playoff games in his pocket, both last year with the Bears. All those years with Carolina and then Chicago, his teams were not in the playoffs. Last year, 2 games, and had a touchdown catch in each game, if you want it. Bills trade for DJ Moore. They give up pick 60, and they get back from Chicago pick 163. Again, I'd like to see the Bills get, I don't want to say creative because this is not the only way to be creative, but with their draft capital this year, especially having spent this pick, yeah, I mean, absolutely, especially because of that, get down and bulk up. Turn that pick 26 into 2 seconds. That's easy. Usually that's easy. And the difference in your odds of hitting with those picks versus 26 is not really that great. Just get two kicks at it. Maybe do that a couple other times and come home with 12 draft picks instead of 6 or 7. I'd love to see them do that. I always want to see them do that, but I think especially this year it's called for. Sal Kapacio next. I might ask Sal the same question. We have the Sabres and Penguins tonight from Pittsburgh, pregame at 6. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
It's the Bills who are the first Buffalo team this week to make a trade as they go out and acquire wide receiver DJ Moore and a 5th-round pick from the Chicago Bears for a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft. Moore, who is turning 29 this offseason, had just 50 catches for under 700 yards this season, but the year prior had 98 catches for 966 yards. It should be noted, though, none of these trades will be made official in the NFL until the start of the new league year next week. But we'll get more on this as Sal Kapacio joins the show next. Now to the Sabres, who do not get their deal over the line with Blues defenseman Colton Parayko as that reported deal is off. Parayko has decided to not waive his no-trade clause. The Sabres, though, do have until tomorrow at 3 p.m. if they do want to make a trade before the deadline. Tonight, though, they are at Pittsburgh. Puck drop is at 7, pregame at 6, and it should be noted for television purposes. Tonight is an ESPN game, so if you do want to hear Dan Dunleavy and Rob Ray, it's going to be right here on WGR. And coming into tonight, the Sabres are rolling in with a 4-game win streak, and all signs are pointing to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen getting the start in net. And then around the rest of the league, 7 other games tonight, some notable matchups to keep an eye on. Also at 7, the Rangers are hosting Toronto, and the Panthers are in Columbus versus the Blue Jackets. At 8, Tampa is at Winnipeg. Then at 9:30 to wrap up your evening, the LA Kings, they host the New York Islanders. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
$35 degrees and rain at present. It feels like 25, which I think the vast majority of people would say this exact weather is the very worst possible weather when you're going to a football game. I mean, the baseball game is going to be called off. Obviously, hockey, you don't have to worry about it. But 35 and rain is way worse than snow. I don't even know if anybody would say different. Sal doesn't have to worry about it. Sal joins us from Florida, where hopefully it is not 35 degrees and feels like 25.
It is currently, I'm looking on the dash here, it's 85 degrees where 85. I am right now. And, yeah, it's hot. However, I'll be in Buffalo in, tonight. And it's going to be, I'm going to walk out in 30 degree, 25 degree weather. I don't really know. So, yeah, you're right about that, though. I agree with you. I always say for football games, for Bills games, like on the sidelines, I would rather have, 20 degrees than 30 in the rain. They're 40 even in rain. It's the worst, but you're right about that. Yeah, it's hot here. It's hot. You forget how hot it is sometimes. It's nice, but hey, it's just around the corner in Buffalo, I think, before it gets nicer.
And 60s Saturday, so you'll be right on time for that.
Yeah, there you go. I love it.
DJ Moore, Sal, what are your thoughts?
I'm the guy that's been saying take the biggest swing as possible. Now, we don't know what got the Bills to DJ Moore. Did they call about Justin Jefferson? Did they call about Jamar Chase? I'm just saying, the top guys in the league, do you make a call and see if they're available? And do you get hung up on, right? And if that's the case, they're unattainable, then you keep going down the order and you get to a really nice player in DJ Moore. This is not that type of player that, I say, hey, sign me up for whatever it takes to get those names that I just mentioned. That's not this guy, but he's still a good player. That said, the compensation feels heavy to me. 2nd-round pick is tough. It doesn't mean it can't work. It can't be great. And DJ Moore, maybe he winds up having, an incredible year, and you look back and say, you know what, it was well worth the 2nd-round pick. I do believe, I have said, and I'll stay true on this, I have preferred the trade or even free agent option more than drafting. I mean, I like the money part of drafting, but you just don't know what you're going to get. They've tried to draft. It just hasn't worked out as much. I'd rather have the proven commodity. But the proven commodity comes with a hefty price tag here, and that's what scares you a little bit, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yes. I'm almost identical in how I feel about this to you. The price is the problem. And what's going to make conversation, debate about this trade interesting, if not either insufferable, is, the easy counterpoint to, well, it's an overpay is, so what? I mean, I need a top wide receiver, and this is what I've got. So am I going to miss the cap room? Am I going to miss the draft pick? I don't know. I don't think you can really ever go that far. It's never quite so what, Sal, for me. And no one can know if pick 60, if they ended up staying there, might have meant somebody important now and down the road. People are, I think, in defending the trade, kind of assuming that the pick is not going to be good, which I won't do. But, yeah, I mean, I think the player is good, but,
yeah. I mean, the Bills, they had a second-round pick in Keon Coleman that hasn't worked out in that same draft. They drafted Cole Bishop in the second round. He looks really good. And you just don't know. But I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth here and say, like, oh, the draft and all that, because I've said, and I agree, and I think that they had to go get somebody who's played in this league and had success. That's where they are now. You can't rely on drafting a guy and hoping he comes in, he can be the player you thought he was at that position. I mean, like where they're drafting position or trading up 5 spots like they've done a couple times. Like they've done that. It hasn't necessarily worked out, and sometimes it takes a couple of years. They don't have a couple of years anymore. Like this is it. You need to win. Now, the other part is, too, which I want to be consistent on, is I have said, as you know, Mike, this offseason at wide receiver to me is not about adding to the bottom of the depth chart and lifting everybody up. It is about going to the top of the depth chart. DJ Moore does that. He goes to the top of the depth chart. I like DJ Moore. He is a really good player. I mean, I've had him on fantasy leagues multiple times, so I know, like, what he can do. The guy's had 90 catches 3 times in his career. He's available. He plays all the time. He is not in the elite stratosphere of the other guys I mentioned, but he's going to be a good player for the Bills and a reliable player for the Bills, I believe. It just does make you kind of wince a little bit and go, man, that second-round pick, like it feels like it's a little bit heavy, like I said, on what they've had to give up and what other people have had to give up for things in the past. And you hope that doesn't come back to bite them. But, man, I'm all in on helping this team right now.
There's the draft capital aspect of it, and then there's the dollars and the cap hit that this is. Sal, I don't know that the Bears could have ended up releasing DJ Moore, but part of my problem today is feeling like he should have been cheaper, that you're almost – I think Jeremy put it this way, doing Chicago a favor. It seemed like a player they were clearly looking to get out of, even more so than the Bills with Diggs a couple of years ago, where I didn't think there was quite the chorus of analysts predicting that Diggs would be traded. But DJ Moore with Burden hitting and Odunze and Loveland and just how his production was mitigated there, and for the money, it seemed like he was going to be traded or cut. That's part of what this is, too, that bothers me. It's not just a second-round pick. And they also got a 5th back. It's not just that. It's that for the contract, I wanted to think that he would have been cheaper than this. And, by the way, and I'd like your thought on this, too, interesting that when the story broke, it was put as it would be a mid-round pick. So either that was just wrong or something changed.
Yeah, I totally get that. So a couple things about this. Number one, you're right. Maybe they were going to do that. But there's no then 31 teams can sign him, though. Right? So to get him for the Bills, to guarantee to get him, you trade for him. That's what you do. Yep. And he has this contract. So, yeah, you're right. Like, maybe he gets released and you can sign him for cheaper, but maybe you can't. Maybe he gets released and another team offers him a lot of money. You're like, well, we can't have him now. We really wanted him. And this is a guy that we landed on. Now we have to pivot and do the same thing, and he's in the same boat as an Alec Pierce, Romeo Dobbs, whatever. And, you're kind of back at square one. So I understand that, but you just don't – why if we're gonna release him, he can go to 31 other teams. Well, let's not do that. Let's work out a deal here, and then the compensation is what the compensation is. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was weird too, the mid-round pick type of thing. The other thing is, Mike, you have to tell me. I'm not positive. I know when the trade was made, there was talk about his salary and the guarantees. I think though, from what I've seen, I think number year, right? But they'd still be next year, obviously, year after.
You're breaking up there, so I'm not sure what you were asking, but yeah, I mean, guaranteed money is a big part of the equation here, and the issue.
Yeah, I think there's a way that they can restructure the deal, or at least move money around to take a less cap hit this year on the Bills. Yeah. I have not seen that, if that's the case, because like I said, if you know that in the last few hours that's come out, I think that's something that Spotrac and other people have talked about.
Yeah, I think that's probably the plan, if it hasn't been announced. Sal Kapacio with me on the West Her hotline. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is out today. Sabres and Penguins tonight. Pregame at 6 from Pittsburgh. Is everybody eats dead? And, coupling with that is like the idea, some of the interesting speculation with Joe Brady as the head coach is, well, was it really the offense he wanted as the offensive coordinator? And, here's a move where, they'd better be more pass-oriented next year with this player. Maybe not dramatically, but you want to think from this, for the price they're paying, that they have intentions to get the ball down the field. He can be explosive more. So I wonder what you think this adds up to. It's still early. We don't have the draft yet even in free agency, but is this a shift, the sign of a probable shift in how they want to play?
It may be in how they want to play as far as like targets and distribution. And I do think they want to be more vertical. And this is a player that does help like that, right? This is a player that, does have that ability to go down the field that you just talked about. I do think that helps them in a lot of ways like that. But Mike, I'm going to say, I think we're still going to hear everybody eats. I think we're still going to hear that, this is because, again, everybody eats. I understand, when you say that, it is, well, where are the targets? How many people are involved? I get it. That is not truly what the Bills mean by it. What they mean when they say everybody eats is we are all going to do our roles. It doesn't matter if you get the ball or not. You have a role to contribute to be a good team player. And if you do that, we will all share in the success. And that's what they mean by everybody eats. So I understand where you're coming from. I get it. But I just think that needs to be said. What they mean by it is not that everybody's going to share in these targets and we're not going to have a true number one.
Okay. So everybody eats at the buffet when the game is over as long as they did their work, or else they have to sit in the corner.
That's pretty much what they mean. Now, I would also say, yes, is there an element of, especially after Stefon Diggs and how that went, south later or whatever, is there an element of, we don't want to rely on one person. It's not about one person and giving them all these targets because that puts pressure on the quarterback and all these people. Yes, I do think there's an element of that. But everybody eats basically means we're all going to get fat on wins and success if you do everything you're supposed to do to help your teammate and help this offense succeed.
Would you rule out wide receiver in round 1 after today? I would.
I would not. I know that's funny, right? I think that was a lot of speculation today. Is it less likely? Sure, I'd say it's less likely. But I wouldn't rule it out. I think wide receiver is still on the table. I could see them devoting a lot of their free agent assets to the defensive side of the ball and then saying, okay, let's go get another young guy to add to this group. Because as of right now, I'm still thinking they're probably going to move on from Curtis Samuel and save that money. What's going to happen with Tyrell Shavers and his injury? Brandon Cooks is a free agent. Gabe Davis is his injury. He's a free agent. I'm still not sure Keon Coleman's going to be on this team, to be quite honest with you, in 2026. So, I still think there's a need at wide receiver, and I could absolutely justify a first-round pick on one.
I think that would be madness because of the other things they need. But, okay, I wonder what is Coleman's trade value to you? Still young, potential, physically good. Is he somebody where you could help recoup what you spent today in a move?
I would be stunned if the Bills got a second-round pick for Keon Coleman, if that's what you mean by recoup. I don't know, though, if you can let him go for anything less than a fourth. That would be tough. He might need to be if you can't get better than, let's say, a fourth-rounder at worst, right? Mm-hmm. To me, that feels like you got to try and make it work if that's the case. You'd rather hold on to him and say, you know what, we can make this work. Let's do it. That's not worth it for us if you're the Bills. He's still in a rookie contract. We still believe in his ability. We think he'll mature, be more professional. I'm not giving him up for anything less than that. If the Bills were to trade Keon Coleman straight up for draft picks, and they got a fifth or, sixth or seventh, I think that's just a signal that they want to do anything they could to get rid of him.
Yeah, that sounds right. That's where it ended up with Elam, where just, they gave him away. But
the difference with Elam was, let's remember, he was going into the last year of his deal. Mm-hmm. So at that point, you're like, what's the point? Anyway, yes, you're right about that, but one more year and he's a free agent anyway, he's going to walk, right? So get something for him. Coleman still has 2 years left on his term. But yes, I agree with that. At that point, it's just get something for him because we just don't want him here anymore.
Well, right. Good point. what Moore does, and you pointed out his durability, that's also reminiscent of Diggs, who just like never missed a game for most of his Bills tenure, if not all of it. But what Moore does that changes the equation this year is like he's always on the field, I think. That's another thing that you want to think would be true because of the investment they just made today. So not literally always, but I mean, lion's share. And that's different for them. I mean, Shakir has his role, and you have whoever the blocking receiver is going to be, like Shavers or Davis in his day. And then what Kincaid, whatever that 60% of snaps or whatever he was getting. I think, I don't know if that just squeezes Coleman completely out. There's the aspect of what he's worth, but then also, like, what do they need him for if they have, this new player who's just going to be taking all the snaps? I don't know. Like that changes for him too, probably today, Coleman.
Yeah, and Mike, I agree with that. And I'll say, I mean, I view it too where if Keon Coleman, and people can look and go, well, if he's your fourth wide receiver, that kind of stinks, but at least you have him as a fourth wide receiver, let's say, and, you can still use him. And I'm like, I don't know if the Bills want to deal with that. And what I mean by that is, like, that's what happened last year. The guy was like, obviously he was a healthy scratch a couple of times in the issues, but he's really like your buried wide receiver. And they were dealing with questions all the time about how did that happen with the guy you just drafted in the first pick of the second round. And that becomes a talking point you don't want to deal with, right? It becomes, you should never be, the bottom of the depth chart receiver should never be like a talking point storyline in a week.
Right.
That is not healthy for a football team. It's the same reason why you can't sign Cam Newton to be your backup quarterback because he becomes a story, and that should not be a story throughout a week.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. With Sal Kapacio, Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is out sick today. So, all right, well, there's a lot to process here with this trade. It's exciting. It's content. One aspect of it, Sal, is that Moore, and I'm not sure how much this is in all of this, but he's had a couple of situations where his effort has been questioned. I mean, literally walking off the field during a play. The last play of the season for the Bears, Chris Collinsworth was right to, what is DJ Moore doing here? Doesn't finish the route, doesn't always have to be the receiver's fault on a play like that, but still, like that's part of his bio, if you will, is like a couple of these kinds of things. Is that something, I think when your team trades for a player, most people want to sort of ignore that kind of stuff or give the player the benefit of the doubt because he's yours now. So I think there'll probably be lots of pushback from the fans if we hear ourselves or Chicago people talking about what DJ Moore didn't do well enough. But I don't know, maybe do you have a sort of a walking in point when it comes to him in that way?
I've heard the same things. I've seen the things you're talking about. I don't think it's been chronic. Something that like, oh my God, there's a lot that comes along with Stefon Diggs. There's a lot that comes along with A.J. Brown. I don't think there's anything like that here with DJ Moore. But those things are valid, and it's not that you should ignore it, but I think you have to at least investigate and say, why did it happen? What's the situation? Why would it be different here? Why can we make sure? And I think because Joe Brady has coached him, again, available 17 games, like it's not like he's getting, there's been issues off the field or anything like that. I would at least say the Bills, I'm sure, have done their due diligence here, and I would hope they would, and they'd be comfortable, bringing this player in and thinking, no, that's not something we're going to have to worry about.
Okay. I was listening to you this morning before any of this, talking 7 o'clock this morning with Jeremy and Joe on different subjects, including they asked you about like your favorite free agent ideas, and you listed 3 or 4 players that you thought would be scheme fits on defense. And I wonder if you could just macro take that a little bit. How do you see the Bills and Jim Leonard wanting to rewire, just scheme, player traits, things like this? How do you see them wanting their defense to be different?
I think they want to give you so many different looks and come from so many different places. They want to be more aggressive because of that. The thing about Sean McDermott's defense over the years, and we can say obviously that there's been failures in the playoffs. We know that, but for the most part, through his tenure in Buffalo, the defense has been very good, for the most part. And part of the reason is they're so structurally sound. They're where they're supposed to be. They're coached to be here, do that. and it's a big part of it. And I'm not telling you that Jim Leonard's not going to be about fundamentals. Of course he is. But I think it's less about being the structure and more about being the athlete and the player and making plays. That's where I think you're going to see something different. A little more of a, hey, we're going to give this guy the freedom to be here and do something different. Jim Leonard himself said he believes he's had a lot of success in his career with guys that are chess pieces, guys that are kind of positionless. So I think you're going to see that. Yeah, they're going to have rules, but, McDermott's defense, like it is, if you don't follow your rule, you're out of your gap, and we're giving up a big run, and that can happen. But as long as you're doing everything structurally sound in 1/11th, we're going to make everything work here. And for the most part, they've had really good defenses, for season longs and numbers and things like that. But the criticism of those defenses has been in big moments, in big games, against teams that have athletes and speed on the field that counter with you. And I think Jim Leonard wants to make sure he has a defense where he can adapt to any of that and say, it doesn't matter what we've done here and what our rules are. We need to change on the fly because I need my guy to go make a play here.
Sal, I got to say, I've never liked having DJ Moore in fantasy. Maybe when he was with Carolina. The years with Brady, okay, but he's been a headache. Which, it's a few different things. It's not always the player's fault. The depth chart and the scheme and whatever else. If you want the defense to be terrible for your wide receivers teams, and so you get garbage time stuff. But I've never.
He held me a couple of years ago. I don't remember what it was. Maybe 23, 24.
Yeah.
Like he was really good, and he had a really good year. Maybe it's 23, I think. And like that year sticks with me. Like how he kind of helped my team out a lot, and I think he had some pretty good numbers. But you're right. I think that maybe you see the flashes there, and maybe from start to end, it just hasn't been as much and consistent as you want.
With Justin Fields, that was in Chicago, so 3 seasons ago, like you said. Okay, 72 degrees it was here 2 years ago today. So you said it. It's close, and Saturday's supposed to be warm. So very good.
Well, hey, and nothing matches 2012, the Mario Williams year, when it was like in the 70s during free agency that week.
That's right. That's memorable for sure. Sal, have a safe ride home, and we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Sal Kapacio on the West Her Hotline. The Bills trade their second-round pick for wide receiver DJ Moore and the Bears' 5th. Moore has had, I don't know, a lot of this looks good for fantasy football. The numbers, he's had 4,000-yard seasons and even 1,100 yards or more 4 times. Just under 1,000 yards a 5th time. Last year, a decline, and he didn't miss time. He was, brought back a little bit. Ben Johnson goes to Chicago. They get results out of their 2 rookies, Luther Burden, who was a second-round pick last year, by the way. And wink, wink. He was you don't have to tell me. It was an early second-round pick. I'm sorry. So Luther Burden and their first-round pick, Colston Loveland, came on for them. And then they had Odunze, and DJ Moore was kind of capped by that. But it was a good team, and he had a couple of important plays in the postseason. Again, he was marked on that last play, though, for whatever that was. Lack of effort or confusion or whatever. You never really know. Well, unless they tell you and you believe it, whether it's a receiver at fault or a throw. Like some of the defense for this trade that I've read today mentions Caleb Williams' lack of accuracy. He was also really good at times, so it wasn't only that their quarterback play was bad. That's more true of the year before with Williams and the Bears. But we had, with Dalton Kincaid, a really low catch rate 2 years ago. And nobody would have really blamed Josh Allen for that because he doesn't get blamed, understandably. And so not a big topic, but yeah, Kincaid was like in the 50s percentage-wise for like catchable passes 2 years ago. And so why? He's good physically. This is, of course, when he's healthy, he's on the field. And it just wasn't really there. And that even showed its head last year some, although I don't know what the number was. So with receivers, it can just be something's off. And, if you're the Bears and that's the deal, and he's making so much money to begin with, well, you can justify moving on. I think it's what they wanted to do, not just they were willing to do it. And they got a great deal from the Bills. I mean, so much money, 9th year. It just should not have cost this much to trade for DJ Moore, in my opinion. But it did. 803-0550 for your thoughts. I look forward to hearing from more of you after the update. 6 o'clock, Paul Hamilton, Sabres pregame, Buffalo at Pittsburgh. I'm Mike Schopp, and this is WGR.
The Buffalo Bills make a trade as they go out and acquire Chicago Bears wide receiver DJ Moore and a 5th-round pick. And to do so, they send the Bears a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft. Moore, who is turning 29 this offseason, just had 50 catches for over 700 yards this past season, but the year prior had 98 catches for 966 yards. For more on this trade, we do have a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. And it should be mentioned, none of these trades can become official until next week with the start of the new league year. Now to the Sabres. They do not make a trade today, as ultimately the reported deal for Blues defenseman Colton Parayko is off. Parayko has decided to not waive his no-trade clause, but the Sabres do still have until tomorrow's 3 p.m. deadline to get anything over the line if they so choose to. Tonight, they do have a game. They're at Pittsburgh. Puck drop at 7. Pregame coming up in just about a half hour at 6. For TV purposes, it is an ESPN game, so if you want to hear Dan Dunleavy and Rob Ray, that's going to be right here on WGR. And then for tonight, all signs are pointing to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen getting the start in net for the Sabres. And then around the rest of the league, 7 other games tonight. Some notable matchups to keep an eye on include also at 7, the Rangers hosting Toronto and the Panthers in Columbus versus the Blue Jackets. At 8, Tampa is at Winnipeg, and at 9:30, the LA Kings, they play host to the New York Islanders. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
When I look at numbers and I look at age starting to be a factor, it's starting to creep in a little bit. I mean, his best year was 2 years ago. His yards per catch was over 14. It went down to 9 the year before, and then last year it was in the 13s. He also only had 50 catches a year ago. He's going to be 29. Salary this year is $27 million guaranteed. That's a lot of money when you consider who he is. He wasn't a number 1 wide receiver a year ago. I get it why the Bills are making the move, but right now I'm kind of in the middle. I know why they did it. I just don't know if he's the answer to the receiver problem.
Pete Prisco. Well, a little bit different criticism than mine. Mine is more squarely concerned with what the Bills gave up for a player that I can't believe anybody would give up what they did for, given everything, his age and his contract, which was all mentioned right there. I'm not sure he's in decline. I'm not saying that about him, but I guess you could. Numbers-wise, yes. So it's different than just like, well, maybe he isn't the same guy. And further, let's just say, like, I'm not sure he's the guy to really get the Bills what they need at that position. Who is? You know, I mean, I liked the Mike Evans idea much more than this. I did not like the idea of trading for this player, and I still really don't. But it's something. And there weren't that many other possibilities that seemed realistic. So who were they supposed to go get that did accomplish that? Which is, yeah, now they're in great shape. That was always still going to probably be a question, no matter what trade they made or what signing they made or what draft pick they made. And I think that'll still be true, but they're better on paper than they were yesterday. That really goes without saying. Of course they are. You know, it's been fun today. A lot of back and forth on it. My first tweet about this trade was to the effect of, how come nobody on my feed likes it? And I didn't really like it either. But, you know, I follow a lot of accounts. And one by one, they're like, 2nd-round pick, 29 years old, $27 million. Like, it was kind of unanimous on my Twitter. People, you know, mostly analysts who were criticizing it. And, you know, I don't need to be told this, but I don't follow fan accounts, you know, really at all, unless it's somebody that I'm friends with. So, you know, a lot of people raise their hand and like, I like it, and it's mostly fans. It's the classic confrontation. It's the best rivalry in sports, the fans against the media. You know, the first response I got today was to the question, like, why doesn't anybody on my feed like this move? And the first response I got, literally the first one, was hating is easier. Hear me out. Let's say we're just going to choose a take. We're not going to put any brain cells into it. We're just going to decide whether we like it or whether we don't. No thought other than whether we like it or whether we don't. Which is easier? The Bills traded for DJ Moore. Whoa. $29, $27 million, guaranteed money for 3 years. Didn't he walk off the field during a play? What happened in Chicago? They had 2 new guys and a new scheme, and I wonder, okay, that's if you don't like it. Second round pick. Okay, is that easier than this? This is now me choosing to like it. The Bills traded for DJ Moore. Oh, cool. I know who that is. He's good. The end. Never listen to somebody that tells you hating is easier. It's way harder. To do it right, it's harder because you've got to construct an argument. And plus, you're talking to people who really probably would rather not hear it in some cases, you know? So definitely not, that's definitely not it. It wasn't easier to dislike this trade. It was much harder than just, oh, cool, go Bills. You can do that in, 1 second. You can like this trade in 1 second. I don't think you can dislike it in so little time. It takes a little bit more effort. Definitely not less. Here is Mike next. Hello, Mike.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree. I mean, you can talk yourself into liking it, but in my opinion, this trade sucks. Not only because of the money, the draft capital, the age, and questionably he's washed, but this smells a lot like Amari Cooper, Curtis Samuel, Josh Palmer, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Dave Davis, Mecole Hardman Jr., Elijah Moore, and Keon Coleman, all bad wide receiver deals.
Well, at least he comes in probably at the top of that list. I mean, it's the biggest swing of any of those guys, unless I missed somebody, certainly the most of them. The Bills haven't paid this price for a wide receiver yet until you go back to Diggs, and that was a home run, trading for Diggs. So, yeah, I mean, what can I say? We threw around a dozen or so names, maybe. Free agency didn't really offer much. I had no interest in Alec Pierce, being like top of the market for Alec Pierce. I want to be, like Sal said about himself, you want to be consistent, and that's like of the utmost importance to me. So consistency-wise, yes, I want them, like everybody, including now it appears themselves, to address wide receiver significantly. But I didn't want this player, and whatever. I mean, he's pretty good, if not very good. And he hasn't had quarterback luck, which is what I think we're going to end up talking ourselves into the most. We're going to all know the names of the quarterbacks DJ Moore played with in Carolina and Chicago and decide, this is different. And maybe it is. I'm curious for not only what that upside might look like, but whether they want to throw the ball more. Because I think there should be that baked in to this trade. If you don't, then you don't make it. I mean, you don't need to spend so much money-wise and draft pick-wise on a wide receiver that you're going to throw 80 passes to. I mean, you want to beat that. So is there going to be a shift in how the Bills play, or is it simply going to be, well, he's better than the guys we have, and we'll run mostly the same offense and see what we get? DJ Moore does deliver touchdowns, or he has in his career. That's another one. Like, he's not big, 6 foot, but he's been productive touchdown-wise in his career, something that, like, Shakir really hasn't been. He might be a little smaller. Not much, I think, maybe a little bit. But there's something you can look up from DJ Moore's career and like that he's gotten in the end zone. Here's Tim next. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Open market for DJ Moore right now. If he's alongside Alec Pierce, he's getting that money, even at probably 29. I mean, Mike Evans, he's getting hurt here in Buffalo. I mean, in these elements, he's never played North. I mean, I just think there's a lot more upside to DJ Moore than there is Mike Evans in terms of, the next couple of years. And he does satisfy the outside presence that we need. I mean, it's not perfect, but what's a better move? I don't think it's Mike Evans.
Okay. And I absolutely do. I think Evans is just a much better player. And I like offsetting the age point with just the trends on when receivers tend to get old, if you will. And bigger is better. So he did have a couple of injuries, and I want to not ignore that. I mean, I certainly respect that part of the analysis. But, man, I just came to love that idea. I mean, Evans is going to the Hall of Fame. They're not on the same level, these two guys. And if Evans is too old now, it's not only that. Sal made this point, too. You can't know if you're getting Mike Evans. I mean, there are channels, and you're trying, you're looking into it, or Alec Pierce or anybody you want. You want to be in the room on a player, but like Sal said about Moore, sure, you could wait this out or could have waited this out and found out whether he was going to be released or just maybe the Bears come down in price and you end up better for it. But you don't get to control the situation unless you do this, unless you go get him. And that's something that with Evans, who knows how many interested teams there might be for him. I would guess there are a lot. If he's going to leave Tampa, I think he'll destroy in free agency, even at 32. So, yeah, I really got excited for Evans. And part of as I've said a lot today, my struggle, not even really a struggle, the struggle is the Bills, again, way overpaying, I think, for wide receiver. It's ironic that they keep doing that and are not good at that position. Like, that shouldn't be how it works. But anyway, my struggle is more that Moore has a couple of these, moments where his effort was called into question. And now he's got tons of guaranteed money. I mean, he's going to be on a team that's favored to win big. So were the Bears. I mean, not they were favored to, but they, won a playoff game. They had a real look at it. Just got to hope that you don't have that. And any trust in Joe Brady helps you toward that because he coached him. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is out today. We've got the Sabres tonight. Pregame at 6. This is WGR. Welcome back. Closing in on Sabres coverage. Buffalo at Pittsburgh tonight. Sabres having won 4 straight. Paul Hamilton from Pittsburgh in 15 minutes or less. Brian Koziol will jump in for me late in the pregame show and take you through the night. By the way, Brian's golf show, Tee to Green, still going strong. Their premiere episode for the season is this Saturday. So spring is here. Tee to Green on WGR Saturday mornings from 7 to 8. Let's go to Ricky. Hello.
Hey, how you guys doing?
I'm
Thanks
fine.
for taking my call. Sorry, you're by yourself. I apologize.
It's okay.
I just want to say I actually like the trade, just to the fact that we had Stefon Diggs for a few years, and we give a first for him. Even him, if he puts up 2 years of good years of Josh being able to have a number 1 wide receiver, let's go with it. I understand that, yeah, the money in the trade was a lot, but if I can get 2 good years out of him, with Josh throwing him the ball, I will take that. If I can get half of what Diggs was, I'll have a great offense. And I just want to say one more thing before I leave. Let's go Sabres. As a Sabres fan living in Toronto for 14 years, this is the greatest year I've had since, or the second half of the season I've ever had in my life as a Sabres fan in the last 14 years. And I've been with my wife for 13 years. So as a Sabres fan, let's go Buffalo. Thanks for taking my call, boys. Oh, sorry.
You're welcome. You have to get way more out of DJ Moore than half of Stefon Diggs. Like, where are we going to set the bar? I guess we have time, right? We have 6 months. We have time to set the bar on DJ Moore. But for what he costs, and this is what makes it tough for me, not only the second-round pick, for what he costs money-wise, you better be a lot closer to, like, his career highs. I mean, you need 1,000 yards here, I think. That's the point. That's got to be the point of this trade, is to have an elite level of production, if not an elite player. I mean, close enough to it. Not everybody putting up 1,000-yard seasons is an elite player. I mean, they can't all be. But it's half of Diggs. Holy cow, is that a low bar? I mean, that's ridiculous for me. I got to get a big year, or else there's no reason for this. I mean, that's the point. I guess we'll see how it happens and what they say to justify it, I guess. But if you have a winning team, it's all good. And this team needs to do more than just get to the second round, like that. That's also the point here, is to over the hump, right? So then you can get hurt. And if you win, you win. It's all good. That's how that goes. But I think you're only bothering with a big move like this if you intend for him to be a star. And you have Allen, and so you think that can happen. And maybe it can. I promise not to sit here every day talking about a second-round pick and the money. I mean, the trade happened today. This is the story. It's fresh and even a little bit controversial. So it's not going to be on postgame, if they're winning, and he's producing anyway, where we're talking about what he cost. I mean, it doesn't work like that. Man, if Brandon Beane last year had enough of harping on wide receiver, settle in. I mean, this one, he's a good player at a big price. And I don't know, like, this one we'll need to see what we get. But man, I got to do better than half of Diggs. I got to get close to Diggs. Where Diggs scratched the surface of best in the league. I mean, he was so good first couple of years with the Bills. Did it all without being, as we know, like a big body, just the technique and the durability, explosive too, fast enough. Like, you got a package from him that was elite. And I don't expect that here, but if I can get close to his level, I'm happy. 1 minute left. Here's Matt next. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, Mike, I got to say, I agree with you about this trade. The second-round pick, that's a lot. That's a future starter, hopefully. It's a lot of money. I just don't see the rush. I think, Alex Pierce, he wants to test the market. I think they tag Jones or transition tag Jones. They can't, the Colts can't tag Pierce. He's, 24, 25, more yards per catch. I just, this didn't move the needle for me at all. I'm kind of with you. Like, I see this guy could become grumpy if he's not getting his touches.
You know what, Matt? I got to run here. Let's hope we don't have that problem, right? Like, let's hope that we're not dealing with the noise that sometimes you get. This kind of salary, this kind of consistent production through the years as a player gets older. Sorry, we couldn't talk for longer. Sabres pregame next. Buffalo at Pittsburgh. Paul Hamilton from Pittsburgh sets it up with me, Mike Schopp, after this here on WGR.